to see these fine folks come from Luminary to be with us this morning, I tell you. I think they're associated with Gary and Teresa. Y'all talked with them, and it was wonderful.
We met him yesterday.
And they met them yesterday. All right. Well, they're no longer strangers to us, are they? I mean, we're fans here. And I believe they're setting up a trailer, get it set up in Luminary. Is that right? In the process of that. So we're happy to have you. Want you to come back here. You know, we're a growing congregation that loves the Lord, and you're going to see that. Let's all be turning our Bibles to the book of Proverbs. It's been about a good month, but I'll tell you what, we'll get right back on it. Proverbs chapter 5. And I've got verse 15 marked, you know, I believe that's where we're at. So, tell you what, it's hopefully everyone's had a wonderful weekend. And, you know, with everything going on in the world today, I find it more and more pleasurable just being in the house, you know, and studying God's Word and just, you know, with you know, and calling and checking on people and things like that, you know, and certainly need to be out if we can to visit and other things. But, you know, a lot of things that we take for granted that if we're not careful, we get neglected a lot on a lot of stuff, you know, like, you know, being at home, being with our family, being, you know, socializing with one another, you know, and I'm thankful that in the last little bit that is coming back into our life more and more now, and certainly more meaningful to us, you know. Certainly is wonderful. All right, let's go with verse 15. Drink water out of thine own cistern, and running water out of thine own well. You know, he's using the term cistern and water, but what we're going to be talking about as we get on down into the chapter is talking about that husband and wife, you know how he used to cleave to that one woman, you know, and of course we'll get on into that. But drinking water out of thine own cistern, you know, be satisfied with what you got at home, in other words, right? Be happy with that. I know when we talk about cisterns here, has anybody ever drew water out of a cistern? Yeah, I can remember 7 and 8 years old. Grandma didn't get running water till she was like 4, till I was like 12 or 13. And we'd take them old milk jugs and have to go out there and fill them up. I thought that was the greatest thing, pulling that old cement blocked off that cistern and being able to look down in there. My grandpa I'd get on his nerves sometime, and he said, "Boy, I'm going to throw you down that cistern." You know, I said, "I can't swim, Grandpa," but didn't think it was very exciting, you know, and I always did that. And water tasted so much better, right? That when it would run down that little gutter and into the well and into that cistern, that water was so good, was it not?
We had to draw our well water with a road.
And take that little dip in that bucket, just, oh my goodness, it was wonderful.
It was hand dug too. It said 47 feet deep.
Yeah, it is.
47 feet deep.
No,
We didn't get running water till 1967.
67.
Sure did.
You know.
I was a freshman in high school.
Yeah. And it just, it reminds us, you know, it's good to think about the times that we had, you know, even back then, you know, and how much more convenient things is now, you know, to us. But was the old ways, was they so bad when we look back?
Our well water was a better drinking water than what we have today.
It was.
It was cold and it was pure.
Sure was. You know, and like I said, you know, I'm seeing more in my life now how the old ways was better. I can remember as a young boy going over to Grandma and Papa, we'd sit around that old cistern, and Daddy or some other would take them old watermelons and bring out. Oh man, we thought we was eating off the hog, have that watermelon cut open and enjoying you know, it was just wonderful. You know, it was little things like that put enjoyment in our life, you know, and now I think sometimes, you know, we forget those things.
Why don't you try walking to work?
Walking to work, yeah, I know. Well, you may see a lot more of that coming on if we keep it up. But of course, Decatur would be a long walk. Prideful.
Conveniences I got.
Brother Ray, we can learn a lot from cattle and stuff, you know. They stick to that old path. That, you know, if you turn them out, you get them anywhere you want to. You've never been in that field or whatever, because right over the road there used to be a lot of cattle, Herefords.
Yes.
But when they went to shelter, went to food, went to water, what they do? Travel that little narrow path. Matthew says, straight and narrow path. Not the broad way, not not devil's playground. Don't go by the wide way. Go with that straight and narrow. And that's what they stayed to, and it went to everything, food, shelter,
Yeah. You know,
safety.
you mentioned talking about the two paths, it talks about that wide and that narrow, that straight and narrow. And it does say on that wide path that it seems like many are going that way, right? And on the narrow, there's only a few there that be, right? But the narrow path is what's gonna lead us to everlasting life, right? If we choose to walk in the ways of this old world, then we're not gonna make it to heaven, are we? We have gotta be separate from that, you know, and keep on that narrow, keep on that old good path, right?
You know, you were talking about the conveniences that we have today. People, when I growing up, we visited, you know, family and friends and things like that. People don't take time to do that anymore. And they have a whole lot more convenient things of, you know, using their time for it than what. But we made it a point to visit when we were growing up, and I think a lot of families have, you know, just
They
disconnected
let the
from
worldly
each other.
things come in between that, have they not? And it's even affected the Lord's church over the years, right? Can you remember years ago, men and women that have sat in these pews that are no longer here? And how faithful and how strong they were, you know? I was sitting there in bed last night thinking of, you know, I grew up there, I don't know if you know where Taft Church of Christ is in Sparta, turn there to Walmart and you go about 3 miles. I grew up there and I was thinking about the older men that were influenced in my life, you know, and what they stood for. And then I look at a lot of the congregation of the Lord's church today and ask myself, is it as strong as today as it was back when we had these men 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago even, you know, that would, you know, that their faith was strong. And if we're not too careful, then the worldly things are going to come in, even the Lord's church, is it not? And it's going to take away from what we need to be doing. So we've got to be strong. We've got to stay faithful to that. And again, I know I'm going all outside the lesson here, but just touching on some of these things, that's important to me. Let thy fountains be dispersed abroad, this verse 16, and rivers of water in the street. When one takes that bride, he is to be happy with her, is he not? You know, his joy should be not only there at the house when he's with her, but even outside the house. Others can see that he is happy with his wife, and that wife is happy with her husband, right? I believe Gary made the comment last Sunday, I believe it was, where he was talking about this preacher giving into marriage to his, and said, you know, the greatest thing that we can do in a marriage is to make sure that either our husband or wife, we get them to heaven, right? That's the most blessed thing. That's it. That's it, Gary. That's it in a nutshell, that we keep each other strong, you know. Lincoln, I gotta commend you on your fine little girlfriend you got. She's really nice, and we was really happy to have her with us Wednesday night, buddy. And, you know,
Bird time.
what's that? Yeah. Well, I believe you're doing good, buddy. Y'all keep strong, you know. Maybe one day she'll be your wife. You know, Lord's will on that, pray. But again, you know, every couple should take that opportunity, and that, even that vow between ourselves, that I'm gonna make sure that me and you both make it to heaven. That's it.
He did that before he put the ring on, and he looked at the girl, and before he put it on, you know, he said, it's your responsibility, your number one responsibility, before you do anything.
Yeah.
Finish your career or whatever. You've got to see that your husband or your wife make it to heaven, that they be there.
That's it. That's it. Let them, verse 17, let them be only thine own, and not strangers with thee. You know, many of the marriages today, they're not committed to it, are they? They still believe it's okay to run around and to be with other partners and other so forth. No. That commitment you made between that husband and that wife, it should be an everlasting commitment, right? It's before God, right? You know, I look around and I see many here that have got several years under their belts of marriage, right? If somebody asked you today, what makes your marriage work, what would be some of the things you would say, you would tell them? Jamie, what could you say? And we might have talked about this, you know, but what would be, what was one of the greatest things that's kept you and your wife together?
We're at church.
The Lord, yeah, that's it.
And then, we've been married 47, going on 48 years.
Yes.
So we ain't never had a fight.
That's wonderful. Well, you know, we're not to go to bed with things.
I just fixing to say, you know, if you have to stay up all night working your problem out, that's what you're supposed to do.
Because we ain't promised another day, are we?
No.
We're not promised another day, you know, and, make sure you get things right before you shut you out, 'cause that's right. Or even before you go to work, right, when you're sitting, you know, get it right, because we don't know. Dal, what's some things that's made you and your wife last all these years?
I don't really know. We just, well, for one thing, we like each other, you know.
Yeah, that's a big thing right there. Yeah, you got to have that.
We honestly were friends.
Uh-huh.
And,
That's true.
we kinda look over each other, you
Does not your wife become your best friend as
know.
well?
Yeah.
Is she not your best friend?
You're one.
You're one, yeah. What about you, Robert?
It's being committed to the relationship. No matter what comes down the pipe, you're gonna do it together.
And I know she was heartbroken when you was off across the sea, because that separation, you know, you don't want to be separated from your husband or your wife, do you? You know, you want them right there, you know, especially when you go to bed at night, you want them right beside you, do you not? When they're not there, then it's a lot of times people can't even go to sleep or go to bed because of that.
The whole house is not the same. You
No.
know, that-
You're not
kids
complete
and all.
anymore without each other.
Right.
All right. Gary, what about you and Teresa? Y'all got several years too there, don't you? What's made that marriage work?
Just be like-minded and our faith in the Word, knowing what it means to be a husband and a wife, you know, and the patterns before us, and being a husband and a wife was established before the church was, before Jesus Christ, death, burial, and resurrection. It was established, the marriage was established in Genesis, you know, in the patriarchal age. And then the head of the household was the one that took care of the offering sacrifices and guiding the house and stuff.
And the
It's
scriptures,
not-
yes, and the scriptures teach us, husband, love your wives as Christ also loved the church. He gave his life for it, right? You know, you must be willing whatever sacrifice that a husband has to make sure of his wife's happy and safety, right? You know, do what it takes to do. And likewise, the wives are supposed to love their husband, right? You know,
Well,
how,
today, the reason the marriage doesn't work, it's because it's a marriage. People just plan, you know, the wedding and the honeymoon and all that. They don't plan for the marriage, and that's why most of them fail, you know. Or they wanna live together, put the cart before the horse. They had that with Brother Jim Dearman in our gospel meeting. They do it all backwards. I mean, and then they'll even go in and say, well, if this doesn't work out, we'll just get a divorce.
yeah.
They hadn't read what the instructions is on marriage.
And there's less marriages, the breakups today, they said divorce, because people are not getting married, right? They're living together, they're what you call old time shacking up, right? And then we know that's not right either. We know that's not right, you know. I had a guy tell me one day, and he made sense. He says, when you start dating and courting, picture yourself with this woman. See how it's going to be, if it's going to be one that you can see yourself on down the road being married to and having children and a family. If you don't see that, leave it alone. Find that one that you can see yourself, you know, because a lot of things could happen that, you know, that may not be suitable for you or your life as well.
Hey, Ray,
Yes, you go ahead.
there's a whole lot of us in the room that have went into marriage knowing that we were gonna be obedient to God, but the partner would not be completely obedient to God and submissive to God's will, and therefore a divorce would come. And as long as it was biblical,
Yeah,
and that
yeah,
person would know, and then maybe you were blessed to have another person
that's right.
that
God always,
actually did wanna do God's will, and you wanted to do God's will, and have a biblical reason for divorce, and that makes it right too. But there's a lot of us in the room, in that situation that that have been there, but you know what, that's the goodness of God Almighty. And He
Yeah.
gives people the right and the way out.
Yeah.
If it doesn't turn out right, as long as they're still faithful to Him, and it still makes marriage as good or even better, just as long as they do it in glorifying
As
Him.
long as God's ahead.
Amen.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Without God, nothing, we can do nothing, could we?
Amen.
Let me read just
You
one.
go right ahead.
Just 40, John 8, 41 through 45, that goes along. The
Okay.
reason there's so much chaos in everything in the world is because we're following the God of this world, not the Creator, not the Creator. We're talking about the devil and
Prince of this world, huh?
prince of this world.
Mhm.
Ye, in John 8:41, ye do the deeds of your father. That's old Satan. Then said they to him, we be not born of fornication, we have one Father, even God. Jesus said unto them, if God were your Father, you would love me. For I proceeded forth and came from God, neither came I of myself, but He sent me. Why do you not understand my speech? Even because ye cannot hear my word. Ye are of your father, the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar, and the father of it. And because I tell you the truth, ye believe me not. That's Jesus Christ. And even when he's going to cast out devils, the devils knew him, but yet his own people were plotting to kill him, trip him up, eventually crucified. But that's what he came. He had to take on the cross and take on the sins of the world. But over and over again, who is this fellow? Who is this?
Yeah.
But anyway, that's all of it. Lust flesh, lust eye, and pride of life. That's all worldly, and that's all from the devil.
It's all from the devil.
And maybe to expound on what Val said, they like each other,
Yes.
and we like each other. Everybody in here likes each other, and that's what makes your marriage good, because there's so many marriages that the husband goes one way, the wife goes another way.
Mhm.
They come home, but they're not doing anything together. That's why I like our writers group here with the UTVs. We all like each other, we have a good time, and, that's what it takes, and it's Christian fellowship.
You're with the best people in the world
Yeah,
when you're like that.
absolutely.
And I like what you touched upon, life. Would you say in a marriage that your love will grow stronger throughout the years than when you first get married?
I'm sure.
Would you say trials and other things that have come into the marriage only makes you stronger?
You listen to all this.
The choice is just like that. It's called Christ the bride.
You taking all this in, Lincoln?
Yeah, but you go down to water grave of baptism, when you come out, that don't make you're a newborn baby. Well, you've got to grow. Each step you take, you grow, and you absorb by reading the Word, studying the Word, applying it, rightly dividing it, and hearing. But you got to read it to know it, because someone, just like the devil, he knows how to tempt us. And but if we know the Word and we're in the light, darkness is nowhere around.
Walk in the light as he is in the light.
Yeah.
That's what Jesus with us. That's right.
And it'll guide us, guard us, and direct us. But you got to be in the light. You got to be striving and keep on the devil in his place.
Mhm.
Put that Christian armor on in Ephesians 6, and he can't penetrate it.
Over the years and stuff, at Mount Della, when I was up there, we would get into subjects as marriage and things. I said, and we were so fortunate that day to have with us that morning in worship, Freddie George's mom and dad. You remember them? I think they had 70-something years before they passed away. And I said, I don't need to be up there. I said, you need to be talking to them too right back there. That's who you go to. Somebody that's withstood the test of time,
Another thing is, you have to be kind to each other,
You
because that makes it easy for love to grow when be kind to each other. And it's a simple thing to do.
Yeah, show that love and support to one another.
Just-
That's right. And will there be times that, you know, that you might get discouraged with your wife, or you might get into a little argument with her or him?
That's why one goes to one end of the house and one goes to the other.
Is that what works?
Then you meet back in the middle.
Once those words pass your lips,
Yeah.
you can't take them back. So you gotta have some me time, and then,
You know, sometimes just walk off for just a little bit, get your
Yeah.
mindset back right, and not to, yeah.
That's why in James it says, be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. If you take care of the first two, wrath never comes into the
exactly.
issue. It's swift to hear and slow to speak. James says, bridle your tongue. And then also, you know, hold of that engrafted word. If you'll read James 1, I believe it's 21 or 22, or read 19 through the rest of the chapter. Hold to that engrafted word and it'll save your soul. Hold to it, live by it, let it direct you.
And I think that's one of the reasons why Jesus put in there, pray without ceasing. When we are coming into that state or getting close to that, start to pray. How much that can help us overcome whatever temptation may be out there that's going to get thrown our way. Yeah.
And you don't have to, you know, you don't have to drop to your knees and,
No.
close your eyes and all. You know, you can pray while you're driving.
My best prayer is about 3:15 in the morning from here to Decatur. I promise you, that's my prayer time. A lot of it, yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right. But be ready to get into that prayer stage, you know,
Yeah.
and, how we are to overcome. All right, number 18. And this is Proverbs chapter 5. Let thy fountain be blessed, and rejoice with the wife of thy youth. Boy, this is some more wisdom and knowledge coming from Solomon to his son, right?
Yeah.
We know the many women that Solomon had took on, and was Solomon's life easy with all these many women that he took?
Yeah.
I think he finally understood here that one wife. Remember the one you married when you was young, and stay with her, right? Be with her. Don't, you know. Again, you know, how you're to be happy.
Enjoy the wife you married when you was a young man.
Yeah. You ever think, when you was young, what made me fall in love with this woman I'm married to now? Or do you forget? I think sometimes we need to be reminded, what caused me to want to marry her, or for her to marry me, or whatever? What happened?
Well, I don't think that the woman you live with now is the woman you fell in love with when in your youth. You change and she changes too, and you grow together.
Yes.
And you're not the same one that fell in love with. You're different. You change. That's exactly right.
I'll buy that for $1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that, because maybe that first one you fell in love with wouldn't be the right one, right?
That's the truth. I'm not who I was when I was young, and I know she's not.
What is that song? Sometimes I thank God for unanswered prayers. You know, God knows best for us, does He not?
Yeah.
You know. But was you young when you did marry the one you're with now?
Oh, yeah.
Was you young, Jamie, when you married yours? He was young. And remember that. Are you as happy as today as you was the day that she said I do to you?
Probably happy.
There you go. Yeah. Is that not how it's supposed to be? You know,
She said I
the
wasn't
years
scared.
that y'all been together, how much greater it is now for you. You know, that's right. And she's put up with y'all these years, Jamie. Come on, man. You know, you got something special
She
there,
got
right?
to be a good woman.
She had to be, right? All right.
God bless me with a good helpmate.
That's it. And what a good helpmate that he knew that we needed a good, didn't he?
Yeah.
He knew. All right, number 19. Let her be as the loving hind and pleasant roe. Let her breast satisfy thee at all times, and be thou ravished always with her love. You know, we're not to hold nothing back from each other, are we? You know, the body parts that it's talking about here, how it is to be satisfied with what you have, right?
That's it.
The old saying, the grass ain't always greener on the other side of the fence, is it?
That's it in a nutshell. Be happy with what you got.
Be happy, be content. Some of the things that happen to men is they get out from their married partner, they get out here and they wind up getting another woman pregnant, or they'll get a disease or any other things, you know, that could go along with that. And then you ask them, says, well, was it worth it? And they'll look at you, no, it wasn't. You know, how much more miserable that has made in their life, right?
A lot of times it's just a guilty conscience is what they take back.
Have to live with it, right?
And that changes things too.
Are we to keep secrets from one another as a husband and wife?
No. That's
We're
what
not gonna keep none from God, because he said when we.
And we're gonna read that on down here.
Every secret thing's gonna, that's in Ecclesiastes,
Yeah.
when we pass,
Yeah.
they'll, the book.
That's why I couldn't.
Yeah, the all-seeing eye of God. That's right.
I
People,
couldn't
you
never-
people say, you know, what goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas. You ever heard that old slogan?
Yeah.
I've never been there.
I've never desired to
I won't.
go there.
I don't have no desire to.
That's why I couldn't never have an affair, because my conscience, I'd have to tell her.
Yeah,
I'd have to tell her myself.
yeah.
Because it'd make me alive.
That's right, because you have trained your conscience as that security that you have there, you know, and that's right, as a Christian, it would eat us. It would be terrible, you know, to live with and to go on. But again, we find here Solomon's wisdom here being implied to his son, you know, that woman of your youth, that first wife, one wife, be happy with what you got there, you know. Grow old together, right, Gary? Grow old. And like you said earlier, keep each other's desires to make sure that she and myself, we're going to go to heaven. Right?
You read what Solomon wrote there, it's,
Yeah.
he had a lot of guilt that he had to, don't follow this path that I took. Don't do that.
Yeah.
You know, that's why it says train the child the way it should go. When it's old, it won't depart from it.
That's right.
Bring your children up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. You train them when they're young, you bring them up.
That's right.
You know, Solomon made, he wanted wisdom instead of great riches. Well, God bless him even more.
Mm-hmm.
But like I say, his choices and being around turned his heart from God.
Number 20, and why wilt thou, my son, be ravished with a strange woman? Now, when it talks about strange woman, you're looking at your adulteresses, your prostitutes, your hookers, your women that you don't need to be involved with, right? And embrace the bosom of a stranger. So many consequences that could go along with that, right? You know, not just to mention the physical side as well as the diseases that could come from being such. You know, a woman that, you know, I talk to a lot of truckers, and I'm proud I've never had this situation, but they'll tell me that you can pull into a truck stop a lot of times, and you'll see these women get out of these trucks with men, with the truckers, and go from one truck to the other, you know, just how dirty that is, you know. Why do you want to put yourself in a situation on something like that? You know, Dad would tell me over in Vietnam, a lot of the young American men, soldiers, would get involved with some of the Vietnamese women and other things, and said they would wind up having things that would kill these men. You know, the men would die before they even got to go back home a lot of times from such terrible diseases, you know, and things. So, you know, again.
But it's not even that, Ray, you know, you abstain from those things.
Right.
It says abstain from the very appearance of the evil. Be not overcome with evil, but overcome evil with good.
Right.
Look at Joseph and Potiphar's wife.
He ran, didn't
He ran.
Yeah.
You know, she wasn't someone that sat on a priest, but he had more respect for Potiphar than what his wife did.
Yeah.
You know, left his clothes, part of his clothes garment there.
Yeah.
You know, look at David and
I was
Bathsheba.
just thinking
Look
about that,
at
yeah.
David and Bathsheba.
Yeah.
You know, she was in her, and he should have been out. Well, he put himself in the wrong place at the wrong time. Peter did the same thing. He was warming his hands around those when he said, well, you was around Jesus. I don't know, man. you was around Jesus. No, and then finally he cussed. I don't know the man,
Yeah.
but he'd been told before then,
Yeah.
Peter, you're going to deny me 3 times. Oh, I'll do this. Oh, I'll die. I'll go to prison. No, you're going to deny me. Then what happened? 1, 2, 3. Then what happened? The rooster crowed.
And he looked and saw Jesus' eyes.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just,
You know,
it
imagine.
doesn't have, you don't have to go look, and you can, that's why I put in there, don't follow your neighbor's wife.
The way you present yourself. Now, if I go to work and I present myself as this big flirt, and I like talking to these women, and they're gonna get the wrong, they're gonna, but I'm married, but they're saying, well, hey, look at the way he's talking to me, he's not into his marriage, but we'll see what we can do about it. But if you hold yourself, the way you present yourself at work and as well as being out, like you said, Gary, they're gonna tell that you're a happy man at home, and you ain't looking for this trash or this kind of stuff to come into your life, right? Very good point. All right. Verse 21, here we go, Gary, what was taught. For the ways of men are before the eyes of the Lord, and he pondereth all his goings. You're not going to escape that all-seeing eye, are you? He's going to see everything you do. His own iniquities shall take the wicked himself, and he shall be holden with the cords of his sin. He shall die without instruction, and in the greatness of his folly he shall go astray. He's going to lose his own soul, and if he's not careful.
Death will be his reward.
That's it, buddy. That's it in a nutshell, like you said, Jenny. That's it. Are there anything, we're just now out of time, we have finished. Anybody want to make another comment or anything? But we need to be happy with the woman we got today, our bride, our wife. And grow old together if the Lord's will, and make sure that we all get to heaven together. That's it.
Hold good word, hold good example, and instructions. Philippians 4, we think on pure, honest, lovely, just. We think on those things. And Philippians 12, you'll know how to abound, you know how to be low, you know how to be hungry, feed. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Well, Christ brought this to us. You can walk in work.
All right. Thank you. Wonderful class. Lincoln, you got notes?